It was just past midnight in a quiet suburban town on the edge of Maine. The streets were empty, the wind whispered through bare trees, and the moon hung pale and cold above the neighborhood. Inside a small two-story house on Birchwood Lane, Emily Dawson, a 27-year-old night shift nurse, had finally come home after a long, exhausting evening at the hospital. She dropped her keys on the counter and kicked off her shoes. The only sound was the faint hum of her refrigerator. Everything felt still, almost too still. Emily lived alone and she liked the peace. Her life had been noisy for years. Her job, her ex-boyfriend's temper, the chaos of city life. Here in this small house she thought she'd found quiet again. Until the phone rang. It startled her. The shrill tone sliced through the silence like a knife. Emily frowned and glanced at the wall clock, 12:03 a.m. Who would call at this hour? She hesitated before picking up. "Hello?" she said softly. No answer, just a faint, hollow breathing on the other end. A slow, steady inhale. An exhale. Then click. The line went dead. Emily frowned. Probably a wrong number, she thought. But something about that breathing felt deliberate. Like whoever it was had been listening to her. She tried to shake it off, went upstairs, and changed into her pajamas. The house creaked as the wind brushed against the old wooden siding. When she climbed into bed, her phone rang again. Yado 7M, her heart skipped. She stared at the screen. Unknown caller. She answered with trembling fingers. "Who is this?" she demanded. The same silence. The same breathing. Then this time a whisper, barely audible. "You shouldn't be alone." The line cut. Emily's stomach twisted. She sat up, her pulse hammering in her ears. Was someone playing a prank? One of the nurses from the hospital? Maybe even her ex, Ryan, trying to scare her again? But Ryan didn't know where she lived now. Nobody did except her landlord and her manager. She checked the windows, locked. The doors, secured. Still, the uneasy feeling crept under her skin like cold water. She turned off the lamp and tried to sleep, but her mind wouldn't rest. At 12:33 a.m., the phone rang again. Emily jumped, knocking over a glass of water. Her heart raced. She answered without thinking. "What do you want?" she yelled. This time the voice came clearer. Male, rough, calm. "Look behind you." Her breath caught. She turned slowly toward the bedroom door. It was open, just a crack. The hallway beyond was dark, but she could swear. Something moved there. The call ended. Emily froze, staring at the door. "It's just my imagination," she whispered to herself. She got up, walked to the door, and flipped on the hallway light. Empty, just shadows. She checked the front door again. Still locked. Windows sealed. Everything looked normal. Trying to calm down, she set her phone on the nightstand and whispered, "It's just a prank." That's all. She climbed back into bed, forcing herself to close her eyes, but then the phone buzzed again. Not a ring this time. A text message. Her eyes widened. Unknown number. "I can see you now." Emily's throat went dry. She stood, grabbed the phone, and looked out the window. But all she saw was her own reflection staring back. The yard below was empty. No one in sight. She texted back, "Who is this? Stop texting me." No reply. She blocked the number and threw the phone on the bed. For a long time, she just stood there hugging herself. The only sound, the ticking of the clock. At 1:15 a.m., she finally fell asleep. The next morning, sunlight poured through the window and everything looked normal again. She laughed nervously at herself over coffee. "You're just tired, Emily," she muttered. "Just overworked." But when she picked up her phone to check her messages, one new voicemail blinked at the top. Timestamp, 1:59 a.m. Her stomach tightened. She pressed play, at first static, then breathing. Slow, heavy breathing, followed by the same deep whisper. "You shouldn't have hung up." Emily dropped the phone. Her reflection in the kitchen window flickered, as if for a second someone else's face had appeared behind hers. Emily didn't go to work the next day. She called the hospital saying she was sick, though the truth was she was terrified. The memory of that whisper, "You shouldn't have hung up," kept echoing in her mind like a haunting melody she couldn't escape. She hadn't slept much. Every sound in the house made her jump. The creak of floorboards, the hum of the heater, even the quiet dripping of the kitchen faucet. By mid-morning, she sat on her couch, clutching a mug of cold coffee and staring at her phone. She'd blocked the number, but deep down she didn't believe that would stop whoever, or whatever it was. Finally, she decided to call the police. The dispatcher's voice was calm, professional. "This is Officer Daniels. Can you tell me exactly what's been happening, Miss Dawson?" Emily explained everything. The calls, the whispering, the text. "Did the caller make any threats?" He said, "He could see me," she replied, her voice shaking. There was a pause. "Did you notice anyone outside your house last night?" "No, I looked. I didn't see anything." "Okay," Daniel said. "Sometimes these calls come from masked numbers or prank apps. It's common. Still, I'll send a unit to check your property, just to be safe." 2 officers arrived 20 minutes later. They searched the small yard, checked the doors, and even walked through the house. "Nothing unusual. Looks like you're clear," one of them said kindly. "If you get another call, record it or write down what's said. We'll trace it if it continues." Emily thanked them and tried to believe it was over. But deep down, she felt that strange presence again, something unseen standing just beyond her senses, watching. That night, she tried to distract herself with a movie. The light from the screen flickered across the living room, painting shadows on the walls. Her phone lay face down on the coffee table. She couldn't stop glancing at it. At 11:54 p.m. it rang. Her heart lurched. Same number, unknown caller. She hesitated, then hit record on her voice memo app and answered. "Who is this?" she said, a faint crackle. Then that same slow breathing. Emily swallowed hard. "If you don't stop calling, I'm contacting the police again." No reply. Just silence. Then faintly, "You shouldn't have opened the door last night." Emily froze. Her chest tightened. "What are you talking about?" The voice continued, almost whispering into her ear. "You didn't see me, but I saw you." Click. The line went dead. Her knees weakened. She dropped the phone. The words echoed in her head. You shouldn't have opened the door, but she hadn't opened any door. Had she? Her memory flashed back to the night before. When she'd checked the locks, maybe she'd opened the front door for just a moment, to make sure it was shut tight. Someone could have been there, watching. She ran to the door now. It was locked. But outside, through the peephole, she saw something that made her blood run cold. A single handprint on the glass. A large one, smeared and faintly visible under the porch light. Her breathing grew shallow. She grabbed her phone and took a photo before locking the deadbolt again. Then she turned every light on in the house. At 12:17 a.m., her phone buzzed. New message. Lights won't help. She dropped the phone. Her vision blurred for a moment as panic surged through her. She forced herself to breathe, forced her shaking hands to call the police again. "Officer Daniels, it's Emily Dawson again. He texted me. He said the lights won't help." "Ma'am, calm down," the officer said. "Stay inside. Do not open the door. We're dispatching another patrol." She clung to those words like a rope in a storm. 10 minutes later, flashing red and blue lights filled her front yard. Officer Daniels himself stepped up to the porch. Emily rushed to open the door but stopped short. She remembered the whisper. "You shouldn't have opened the door last night." "Officer?" she called from inside. "Miss Dawson, it's okay. You can open it," he said. Slowly, she unlocked and pulled the door open. Daniel stood there, calm and reassuring. "We're going to take another look around," he said. He and his partner swept the property again. Nothing. No footprints, no cars, no signs of a person hiding nearby. But when they reached the side of the house, Daniels called out softly, "Miss Dawson, you might want to see this." Emily stepped outside, her breath misting in the cold air. The side window of her bedroom was cracked open just an inch. She could have sworn it was locked. Beside it, in the dirt, was something small and metallic, a flip phone. Old, scratched, and covered in dust. "Could be our prankster," Daniels muttered. He picked it up with gloves and slid it into a plastic evidence bag. "We'll check it at the station." Emily felt a wave of relief and dread all at once. She thanked the officers, locked every window, and sat on her bed with trembling hands. Maybe now, she thought, it was really over. But at 3 a.m., her home phone, not her cell, rang. The number flashing on the screen made her blood freeze. Calling, Emily Dawson, her own name. Her own number. The phone rang again. Once, twice, then stopped. A soft whisper drifted through the dark. "You found my phone, Emily. Now I'll find you." By the time dawn touched the windows, Emily hadn't slept a minute. She sat on her couch, staring at the home phone, the one that had somehow called itself the night before. The silence in the house was heavy, almost suffocating, as if the walls were holding their breath with her. The police had taken the old flip phone for evidence, but she couldn't stop thinking about it. Why would it call her number, and why had the voice sounded so close, as if it were whispering right behind her ear, not through the line? At 9 a.m., Emily packed a bag and drove to the local library. Her hands shook on the steering wheel, the echo of that final whisper, "Now I'll find you," stuck like a splinter in her mind. Inside the quiet library, the scent of old books and dust gave her a strange comfort. She used one of the public computers to search for unknown caller hauntings and calls from same-number ghost stories. Thousands of results appeared, stories from across the US and UK, people receiving calls from disconnected numbers, hearing their own voices played back, phones ringing from inside their homes even when unplugged. Her heart sank when she found a news article dated 1998. Local, man found dead in his home after repeated midnight calls from disconnected line. Case remains unsolved. Victim's name, Leonard Vance. Leonard Vance, her breath caught. That name wasn't random. She remembered it, faintly carved into the inside of her bedroom closet door when she moved into the house 6 months ago. She thought it was graffiti from a past tenant, but now it didn't feel like graffiti. Emily printed the article and hurried out of the library, her mind spinning. Could the phone found outside belong to him? When she arrived home, the air inside felt colder than usual, not from temperature but from presence. The moment she stepped into the hallway, the faint hum of static filled the air. She froze. The sound was coming from her cell phone, lying on the counter. The screen was black, powered off. Yet from the speaker came a low, distorted crackle like an untuned radio. Emily picked it up slowly. The static stopped. For a moment, silence. Then in a whisper barely audible, "You found me." She dropped the phone. Her breath came in short gasps. The words hadn't come from the phone speaker. They'd come from the kitchen itself, echoing softly around her like the house had spoken. She grabbed her keys, ready to bolt out the door, but her car alarm suddenly went off outside, honking wildly on its own. The sound blared for 20 seconds, then stopped as suddenly as it started. She was shaking now. "This can't be real," she whispered. The house seemed to creak in response. The floorboards groaned under invisible weight, one step at a time down the upstairs hallway. Emily stared toward the ceiling, each step slow, deliberate, approaching the top of the stairs. She could feel the presence descending, though nothing was visible. The air grew colder with every passing second. She backed toward the front door, fumbling for her phone to call the police again, but the screen blinked to life on its own. New voicemail. She hadn't heard it ring. Trembling, she pressed play. At first, only static. Then faintly, a voice. Male, distorted. "You moved into my house." Emily's eyes widened. "You shouldn't have changed the locks." The message ended abruptly, replaced by silence so deep she could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She didn't wait this time. She ran out the front door, got into her car, and drove. She didn't care where, as long as it wasn't Birchwood Lane. By noon, she sat in a small diner off Highway 7, sipping a coffee she couldn't taste. Her hand still trembled. She tried to make sense of it. A man named Leonard Vance, her house, the phone calls. A waitress approached, friendly and talkative. "You all right, honey? You look pale." Emily hesitated. "Do you know anyone named Leonard Vance? From around here?" The waitress frowned, thinking. "Vance? Oh, sure. That name's familiar. He used to live out on Birchwood Lane, didn't he? Died years ago. Some say his body wasn't found for days. Poor guy was one of those phone company repairmen, always working late shifts." Emily's stomach twisted. "What happened to him?" The waitress leaned closer, voice low. "They say he died alone. Heart attack, they thought. But folks said his line kept ringing for hours after, even though the phone had been ripped from the wall." Creepy stuff. Emily's spoon clattered onto the counter. Her head spun. If Leonard Vance was a phone repairman, then maybe the phone itself was connected to him. The one they'd found outside could have been his. She thanked the waitress and left a tip, heading back to her car with trembling hands. She had to know more. Back at her house, the sky had already turned gray, thunder rumbling in the distance. As she stepped onto the porch, she noticed something on the doormat, a folded slip of paper. She bent down, heart pounding, and unfolded it. In shaky handwriting, The note read, "Stop answering when it rings." The paper was damp, as if left in rain, but it hadn't rained in days. Inside the house, the lights flickered. Her cell phone, lying on the counter again, lit up with a single message. Unknown number. "You shouldn't have left." Emily backed away slowly, tears welling in her eyes. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. The answering machine beeped. She hadn't touched it. The red light blinked once, then, through the machine speaker, a voice murmured, "Broken, almost human. I just want to come home." And then from upstairs, her bedroom door creaked open by itself. The storm rolled in that night like a living thing, thunder growling over Birchwood Lane, lightning flashing through Emily's windows. Rain struck the glass like tapping fingers, and the whole house seemed to breathe with the storm. Emily sat on the floor beside her couch, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes locked on the unplugged home phone across the room. It sat silent now, but she knew it was only waiting. Every time she thought it was over, it rang again. She'd tried to leave earlier, but when she'd turned the key in her car, the engine hadn't even coughed. Dead. And when she'd reached for her phone to call for help, the signal bars had vanished. No service. Now with the storm raging, she was trapped. The note she'd found on her porch, "Stop answering when it rings," lay on the coffee table. She kept staring at it, turning the words over in her mind. Whoever wrote it? Were they warning her? Or was it another message from him? Then faintly, the home phone buzzed. Not a ring, a low vibration like it was humming. The cordless handset, though unplugged, lit up with a dull blue glow. Emily stood slowly. No, not again. The light pulsed. One ring, two rings, then silence. Her heart pounded. She stepped closer, whispering to herself, "Don't answer it." The phone rang again, louder, longer. Her hands trembled. Against her better judgment, she picked it up. Not to answer, but to throw it across the room. But the moment her fingers touched it, a voice spoke through the receiver without her pressing any button. "You said you'd fix it, Leonard." Emily froze. It wasn't the rough male whisper this time. It was a woman's voice, sorrowful, trembling, echoing faintly like it came from a long distance. "You said the line would be safe, that no one could hear us." Static crackled, followed by the sound of crying. Then the same whispering male voice broke through. "Get off the line. She's listening." The phone went dead. Emily dropped it, stumbling backward, her mind spinning. There were two voices now. A woman and Leonard. Was he haunting the line? Or trapped in it? She remembered the news article. Leonard Vance, a phone technician. Maybe something had happened while he was working. Maybe he'd died fixing a line that shouldn't have been touched. Determined, she grabbed her laptop and searched his name again, this time narrowing the results. After a few clicks, she found an old, archived newspaper from 1999. Phone repairman found dead after electrical surge. Mystery surrounds fatal call. Authorities discovered Leonard Vance deceased in his home, surrounded by melted telephone wires. Reports claim his equipment picked up an active signal moments before the surge, though no line was connected to the grid at the time. Emily's stomach turned cold. An active signal with no connection. Like her own phone, she scrolled further down. Another line caught her eye. Investigators believe Vance had been working to install a private emergency system between his home and the local exchange, a line that could transmit calls even when disconnected. Her hand flew to her mouth. Could that be what her house still had? An old line buried deep, still carrying signals. Or spirits. Lightning flashed, illuminating the room. For a brief second, in the reflection of the dark TV screen, she saw a shape standing behind her. Tall, broad-shouldered, unmoving. When the flash faded, it was gone. Her phone buzzed on the table. A new message. Unknown number. The storm opens the line. Emily's breath caught. The lights flickered, the house hummed. Faint static whispered through the air vents like a voice tangled in electricity. Then from the hallway, her answering machine beeped. The red light blinked 3 times. She walked toward it slowly, her reflection rippling across the window as lightning flashed again. The machine clicked and played automatically. "You took my house, Emily," the deep voice said. "Now you're part of it." Her blood ran cold. The walls began to creak, a low groan spreading from one end of the house to the other. like the structure itself was alive. The lights dimmed. The hum in the walls grew louder, more frantic, until it sounded like hundreds of faint voices whispering at once. Emily screamed, covering her ears. "Stop it, leave me alone!" But the whispers merged into one clear voice, his voice. "Help me fix the line." The kitchen light burst, glass raining across the floor. Sparks danced from the outlet near the old phone jack. Through the static, she heard the faint voice of the woman again, crying. "He's trapped. He's trapped in the call." Emily fell to her knees, shaking. "What do you mean?" she shouted. "What do you want me to do?" The woman's voice faded, replaced by that deep, distorted growl again. "Pick up." The unplugged phone began to ring, loud, metallic, echoing through every wall. The sound was deafening, vibrating through the floor, through her chest. Desperate, Emily grabbed the receiver. "What do you want?" Static roared back. Then softly, "Help me reconnect." The phone went silent. She looked at the outlet. One wire hung loose, the same one that had sparked moments earlier. Her trembling fingers reached toward it. "Don't," she whispered to herself. "Don't touch it." But deep in her ear, she heard that whisper again, not from the phone this time, but from inside her head. "Fix the line, Emily." And before she could stop herself, her hand brushed the wire. A blinding flash filled the room. Pain surged through her body like lightning, and everything went dark. When she woke, hours later, the storm had passed. The house was still. The air smelled of burnt metal. The phone lay beside her, screen cracked dead. Her heart pounded as she looked toward the wall. The phone line was gone, ripped clean out, and from somewhere deep in the walls came a single ring. Morning sunlight filtered weakly through the curtains, pale and cold. Emily woke on the living room floor, her body aching, her fingers numb. For a few seconds, she couldn't remember where she was. Then the memories came rushing back, and the storm, the voice, the shock, the ringing inside the walls. She sat up slowly. The room was silent now. Too silent. The kind of silence that pressed against her eardrums. Her phone, shattered from the night before, lay beside her. It was dead, its screen black, but she could see faint scorch marks along its edges, as if it had been struck by lightning. The clock on the wall blinked 12 wide, reset after the power surge. Everything in the house was eerily still. Emily forced herself to her feet. "It's over," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It has to be over." But as she stepped into the hallway, something stopped her. A faint noise. A soft, steady hum, not from any appliance, but from inside the walls again. It was low, rhythmic, and almost human. She pressed her ear to the plaster. From deep inside came a muffled whisper. "You fixed the line, Emily." She jumped back, her breath catching in her throat. No, I didn't. I didn't do anything." The whisper grew clearer, vibrating through the air vent this time. "You brought me back." The house gave a low groan. The lights flickered once, then stabilized. She grabbed her coat, ready to leave for good. But when she opened the front door, her car was gone. The driveway was empty, the street silent and fog-covered. Panic seized her chest. She ran back inside and slammed the door shut, locking it. She picked up her broken phone and froze. The cracked screen lit up on its own. For the first time in hours, it had power. An incoming call, calling Leonard Vance. Her hands shook so hard she almost dropped it. No, you're dead," she whispered. The ringing stopped. Then the phone began to play a voicemail automatically. Static hissed, followed by a calm, measured voice. Male, low, almost tired. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone." She stood still, eyes wide. The company said the line was safe. But it wasn't. It listened. It kept everything, every voice, every sound. When I tried to shut it off, it wouldn't let me go. The voice crackled, breaking in and out. "Now it listens through you." The phone beeped. End of message. Emily dropped it, backing away slowly. The air around her began to shift, as though the walls were breathing again. A faint static filled the air vents, then spread to the floorboards, the windows, the wires behind the walls. From the old landline port came a faint, glowing pulse, blue light flickering deep inside it. Her heartbeat thundered. "You're not real," she said, shaking. "You're just a memory." But the voice came again, through every device at once. The TV flickered on by itself, showing static. The microwave screen glowed. Even her unplugged clock radio began whispering. "You shouldn't have touched the wire, Emily. Now the line is open again." She clutched her head, stumbling backward. "What do you want from me?" she screamed. "Someone has to keep it running." The words echoed. Keep it running. 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 Until they seemed to fill the air itself. The light in the phone port flared brighter and the walls began to shimmer faintly, as if the house itself were becoming transparent. She could see faint outlines of cables behind the drywall, twisting like veins, glowing faintly blue. Through the static hum, another sound emerged, the woman's voice from before. "He was never alone. Neither are you." Emily turned toward the sound. At the top of the staircase, a faint figure flickered into view, the outline of a man in a utility jumpsuit holding a phone receiver to his ear. His face was blurred, shifting like static on a broken screen. "Leonard," Emily whispered. He looked at her, or seemed to. His eyes glowed faintly like weak radio lights. "You answered when no one else would." The lights surged. Every bulb in the house flared to white, and the figure stepped closer. Not walking, but gliding, phasing through the air, his voice a low, electrical growl. "Now you're the operator." Pain stabbed through Emily's head. She screamed as her phone rang again, a piercing, endless tone. The devices in the house all joined in, creating a chorus of overlapping rings like thousands of calls happening at once. She fell to her knees, clutching her ears, but the noise didn't stop. Her vision blurred. Every surface around her rippled, walls melting into lines of glowing circuits, light spilling out of outlets and sockets like veins of lightning. And then, suddenly, silence. When she opened her eyes, she was standing in a white void. No walls, no ceiling, just an endless hum. A rotary phone sat in front of her on a small wooden table. Its cord stretched endlessly into the nothingness. It began to ring. Emily reached for it, trembling, terrified, yet unable to resist. She picked up the receiver. "Hello?" For a moment there was nothing. Then a voice, and her own voice, that came through the line. "Is this Leonard? Please, stop calling me." Her breath caught. What is this?" The voice continued. "You shouldn't have answered." The line went dead. The void pulsed once, like a heartbeat. And then the world snapped back. Hours later, a police cruiser pulled up outside 45 Birchwood Lane. Officer Daniels stepped out, responding to a welfare check from Emily's manager. The house was quiet, the front door slightly ajar. "Miss Dawson?" he called. No answer. He stepped inside. The place smelled faintly of ozone and burnt plastic. On the living room floor lay Emily's phone, screen still cracked but glowing faintly blue. The display read, "Incoming call, Emily Dawson." Daniels frowned. "That's impossible." He bent down and picked it up. The moment his thumb brushed the screen, the phone connected. From the speaker came a soft, distant whisper. "Hello? Can you hear me?" He froze. The voice was female, calm, familiar. "This is Emily. Please don't answer when it rings." The phone beeped. The line went dead. Outside, the wind rose, carrying with it the faint echo of a telephone ringing, somewhere deep inside the house.